myself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true. And it feels alright when they come and say to you.
Good evening, welcome to NUFC Matters, the three amigos, the perfect way to kickstart your Newcastle United weekend. And as always, got a good show for you with all your usual favourites. Big shout out to John Allen, who's had better news in the last couple of days. He's on the recovery, which is great news. And a big shout out to the Chief Executive Officer at Aston Villa. Yes, we'll come to you in a bit, mate. Keith, let's start though where we should always start, with a bit of football, mate, and another comprehensive win, this time against the Scouse Mackems. Pickford, little arms and all, floundering like a pterodactyl in the nets last night as goal after goal went in. And I think the only person who was probably a little bit down this morning was the Heed, our good mate, who once again had 5-1 on his betting slip, only to be denied by VAR. Cost another 250 quid he hasn't won. So, needless to say, I guess the Heat will be taking 5-1 on Sunday and hoping for the best. But, yeah, what a performance, Keith.
Amazing. I was working this week in the Isle of Man and got on the ferry last night at 7:45. And Johnny Allen, from his hospital bed, sent his he's dialing. So I'm sat there in the executive lounge on the board, coming back for 4 hours. And we got reprimanded twice, me and my pal, who was at the matches on Sunday, and he's coming this Sunday. We got reprimanded and told people weren't happy because once there was an Everton supporter on the cabin, but there was some women trying to sleep, and they said, you've been very noisy, screaming and shouting, get in. And my pal sat there, 61-year-old, singing We've Got Bruno in the middle of first class. So there was hell on. So they said, look, you're gonna have to be quiet or move out. And I says, the problem is Newcastle need to stop scoring. If they could stop scoring, we'd be fine. But it was amazing. You know, I watched the match, and I don't know whether you're stuck somewhere and you're not home and you're just seeing it coming on there. It was surreal. Where do I start? Longstaff and Joe Linton, like, two Trojans in the middle fighting. Joe Linton got kicked to pieces, but he just gave as much out. Wilson's goal was worth going for on its own. To say that, it was just surreal. Brilliant what he did there. Not a typical Wilson goal. And the talking point's got to be Isaac's dance, juggle, and Thierry Henry like goal make. It was just, he doesn't get credited with an assist for that because it touched another player. So apparently that rules an assist out. But what he did was absolutely surreal. It was just amazing. So you won't get an assist for that, George, because apparently it's got to go from him to the player to qualify for an assist. So all that juggling and dancing around and leaving people on the backsides, apparently that is officially not an assist. But it was the best assist I've ever seen since I've been watching Newcastle. And I thought, 63 million sounds like a lot of money. But when you put it in perspective, it's pennies for him. And that to me tells me the next thing is that now we're going to get Champions League and we'll probably get third place and we probably won't have to go into playoffs. We've got to look at players like Osimhen. It's them kind of players that will take us to the next level. Because when you look at what we got with Botman and what we got with Bruno and what we've got with Isaac, you can see the quality that's available abroad for the money that people in this country would get for average players. And there are some good players in this country, but there's 60, 70 million. And when you spend 60 million abroad, you get like the kind of play you saw last night. I thought Isaac, when he come on, how could you make an impact to a side? But it was tough for an hour. We got lumps kicked out of us. You got smoke bombs chucked at you before you got in, and then we just battered them. Because Newcastle, I think we better when people come at us and give us a battle or try and give us a fight. But amazing, absolutely chuffed a bit. It's never been happier supporting Newcastle. And if that's not good enough for you, you're in the wrong world and the wrong team. It was awesome.
Mitch, it's something we've got to get used to. I keep saying it on this show, but performances like that away from home, What did Newcastle learn from the Aston Villa game? They learned that when people come at you and have a go at you, you defend in numbers, you put the hard work and graft in, you let them blow themselves, blow themselves up, and then you hit them on the counter attack. And that was a great performance.
I said early on to the lads when we're watching it that the way Everton started, they would last to about an hour. They came out the traps 100 miles an hour. You could see what they were trying to do, match the energy, match the closing down and the hard press. But they've not been doing it all season, and they don't have the fitness for that. And that was exactly what happened. They got to the hour, they started to drop off. We brought our subs on, and that was when we pulled away from them. I think it was a great test and a great practice for going away in Europe, going away to a hostile away ground in a midweek with flares and with all sorts going on around you, and just sticking to the business in hand. I think Eddie Howe's used that almost as a dress rehearsal for European nights next year. I also think, again, I said this about what we did to Spurs and now what we've done to Everton. I've never seen us have a club come to us or go to a club where they've had internal problems that we remember from the 80s and see us put them to the sword. And we've not just done it once in a week, we've done it twice. We went there, we've taken advantage of their situation, and we've put them to the sword. No mercy. We were always the release valve. We were always the team that would rock up when you were in trouble and you needed 3 points, that you'd get them off us when we rocked into town. We were always the team where if your striker hadn't scored in 8 games, you would put one in against us. It was almost nailed on. And we're not doing that now. We're a very different beast. We're a totally different animal. We're quite ruthless. And I think the situation with Isaac and Wilson is bringing the best out of the both of them. That goal, I've never seen Wilson score a goal like his second at all in his career. Can you guys remember him turning around, opening his body from 25 yards and sticking it in the top corner? Because I bloody can't. I didn't even know he had that in his game. So we're now seeing the best of somebody who, when he gets his opportunities, doesn't want to give it up. And that benefits everyone. And I think Joe Linton, how does he find all the space he finds on the left-hand side? The lad's 6 foot odd. He's built like a cruiserweight boxer. It's not like he can hide in the corner and go, suddenly step out and go, surprise, I'm here. He seems to find the space on the left when he drifts out wide. And would take advantage of every moment of it. And I think I really do like that combination on the left and centre with Joe Linton and Willock interchanging, because it keeps the fullbacks on us. And then Isaac, what can you say about that dribble? I counted 8 players, if you include Pickford, that he took out of the game at one stage or another with that dribble. I think it took the groundsman about an hour and a half to get 2 of them unscrewed from the pitch after the game. And then at the end of that run, to have the situational awareness to point. If you look, he points at Wilson, knowing Wilson's on a hat trick, and he tries to make the ball through to Wilson. As it happens, takes a deflection. Therefore, you don't get your assist. That's why ice hockey talk about double assists these days. And so he knew Wilson was on a hat trick and tried to set him up. How the hell can you do that after a run like that? That's probably world class. World class.
I agree.
Yeah, 100%. Steve, enjoy that last night?
I did, yes, very much so. Just listening to Keith talking there, and he mentioned about his pal cheering on. That's the reason why George and I don't go to away games anymore. Youngsters like that causing chaos on travelling away,
I nearly got hired out.
Exactly.
Quiet.
It just goes to show. I mean, we there were so many things that you can take away. We didn't start off well, first 20, 25 minutes. We were. I couldn't even say that we were playing within ourselves. They were trying to control the game. They were trying to press. Is exactly what Mitch says. They didn't have that in their locker though. a couple of scrapes. Calvert-Lewin was leading the line quite well. Things were going okay for them, and we were playing, like I say, within ourselves. But once the goal went in, and that was it. It was a case of our heads rising as their heads dropped, and it was just great. You've got to remember, it was an away performance as well. And Isak, I've mentioned it a couple of times how I'm looking forward to the day when he starts with Isak and Wilson together, and I think before the end of the season we will see that. There'll be occasions where Eddie will want to chop and change. He'll want to try something slightly different as we move on, because a lot of people said that we were being thought out or outthought, and how was being outthought these tactics, especially after the Villa game. But what a reaction both from the coaching staff and the playing staff to actually put in performances like they did on Sunday, and then again yesterday with intensity, with panache, with style. And exactly, Mitch, you talk about Callum Wilson, you say we didn't know he had it in his locker. I thought yesterday's performance, it was one of those performances where everything went right from. He showed what a centre forward is all about. He led the line. He bossed their two central defenders. He made space. He was left. He was right. And what a reaction to get. It's only 6-8 weeks ago. People wanted him out the door. He was finished. He couldn't hit a barn door from 10 yards. He's the top goal scorer sitting there on 13 goals. He's reacted in exactly the way that you'd want a professional footballer to act, exactly the way that Eddie Howe would want him to react. And, you've got to take your hats off to Wilson, because the pressure was on. Isak, £65 million we paid for him. He's looking for it. But you know what? Let's get them in together sometime, Eddie. That's what I'm waiting for. And then maybe we'll go beyond the 6. Maybe we'll get the 7s and the 8s and the 9s that some of our performances are deserving.
George, another great result, mate.
Yeah.
And you know what? Talk about bounce back
amazing.
ability. After the cup final, we went on that wonderful run, and then we do a typical Newcastle. We go to Villa, a game you want to win. We get absolutely, spanked 3-0 by a team that's chasing us. But this is a different Newcastle, isn't it? This is a completely different beast of a team, because the motivation and the coaching's there from Eddie Howe. But in that dressing room, we've got some big characters, Dan Burn, Kieran Trippier, to name two, who just, they've got it. They've got what it takes. And for me, that performance again showed it last night. And we fear nobody, home or away.
No, it was amazing all over the pitch. There's so many things I would like to talk about. The Isak run, I haven't seen a dribble like that since the days of Bobby Mitchell. And because he did beat 8 or 9 players, but he did a typical Bobby Mitchell at one stage and went back and beat 2 of them again. He did it all over again. The only difference is he did it at 100 miles an hour. Poor Bobby could hardly do 30 miles an hour when he was doing that, where Isak did it at 100 miles an hour. And that didn't surprise me one bit that they're comparing with Thierry and Henry, because that's the pace he's got, that's the skill he's got. And it is world class, there's no doubt about it. And to have the awareness, Neil's already said it, to get to that byline and actually be looking for your mate who's on a hat-trick and try and get it to him was just unbelievable. That's the extra bit that makes the 63 million look peanuts now. To be perfectly honest already. And as the seasons go on, the years go on, he'll pay we're back that 10 times over if he keeps playing like that. That was absolutely outstanding. Callum Wilson, what Callum Wilson's done, as you've already said, the lad, he's reacted like a proper professional should. He either was out the door going somewhere else, or he was going to get it all together. And by Jove, he's got it all together. He was a proper centre forward last night, and the Everton centre halves just didn't know what to do with him, to be perfectly honest. And his second goal was just out of this world. It was better. It was top draw, and no goalkeeper in the world was going to save that one. So that's great. In other things, I wish to God that sort out this offside rule. That Shaw's goal was one of the nicest goals you've seen in a long time. And he had to wait till after he celebrated to discover that somebody had been off, Dan Burn had been offside. Why didn't the Ryerson put his flag up as soon as he seen Dan Burn was offside? Because he's not allowed to. He's got to wait till the ball goes back into another phase, as they call it. Well, Shaw could have injured himself. Pickford could have been injured in the shot on goal. All sorts of things could have happened, all for the sake of doing what's right, in my opinion. Offside. You're offside. Put the bloody flag up. That's all you need to do. But they don't. They're going to play this silly game of one phase, two phases, three phases before the player that's got the ball goes into the net, and that just irritates me greatly. However, add on to that, the players coming in who you wouldn't have guessed they'd been missing. I mean, it was great. The other interesting thing was when Dan Burn came on, was that I heard Dermot Gallagher on the ref watch, I think it was this morning, saying he hoped the referee in that game thanked Dan Burn for the way he helped them to control the game, because there were two flare-ups because of their nastiness. And Dan, especially one hack of on Bruno, where our lads were going to get upset. And Dan Burn just collected them all together in his big arms and pushed them to one side and took them away from the Everton players to stop any aggravation breaking out. And Dermot Gallagher said it. He said, well, I hope the referee thanked him at the end because he saved them a lot of hassle doing that. And there's lots of other things like that. These things show that the energy that's in our team and the response that's in the team for each other, and that's absolutely fantastic. It's got to be praiseworthy from any point of view. And the other thing for me is that this we're getting kicked. They're trying to kick. Some of them are trying to kick you out of the game, and Joe Linton particularly, but you know he's big enough to look after himself. I mean, Neil's right. He's built like a cruiserweight boxer. I wouldn't like to get on the end of a right hook from him. I tell you, he's such a big bloke and a handy bloke. So it's all going right forward in it. However, I refer to the words of Sean Dice afterwards. I don't know if you've heard him say that. Do you realise that 7 or 8 of those players in that Newcastle team, when they came here last year, were getting booed by their own fans? Were getting hassled by their own fans. And look at them now. And what he said was, that's hard work. That's what we all need to do. So there's Sean Dice saying, you know, Eddie Howe's done it. We've got to try and copy it. I thought that was real praise from a fellow professional. In every sense of the word, and Sean Dyche is no mug. I mean, let's face it, been in the game a long time, so that all adds to me to make it how interesting it all is, and how fantastic, what tribute to it to us as a team, and I'm enjoying every minute, as you can see.
Yeah, I would agree. What was your thoughts, Keith, on Matt Targett's comeback? I thought he was good last night. I thought he tired towards the end. I thought Miggy, just looked that little bit short of match fitness, because the standards Newcastle have got this season are so high that when someone looks like they're slightly out of sorts, then they do stick out. But I felt Matt Targett had a decent enough game last night. It was good to see him back in for me.
He was tidy, but if you bring anybody in, I mean, like Maxi's somewhere, and he's got to try and get back that squad. And when you look at the way you look at the performance levels that Pickett's in there, I think it's getting harder and harder for any player to come off the benches from the fringes. And I'll surprise you, like Murphy, he's achieved and reached the level now where subs coming in have got to get the levels he's playing at. And Michael Owen, not my most favourite player, made a good point last night when he was commentating at the end. He said, this Newcastle side, if you're a forward, it looks like you score 2 goals and you get dropped. And that's happened to Isaac last week. And he says it'll probably happen to Wilson tomorrow on Sunday, because Wilson gets 2, he'll probably drop him on Sunday. Put Isaac back in. He says it's like you've got to get a hat-trick to keep your place. Now, when you bring someone off the bench, think how long our young boy Miggy's been out. It's all about pace and pressure and push and fitness. So he's obviously going to be rusty. Target's been out a long time. And the likes of Richie and them, he puts them on, they're getting older. And when they're coming on, they're playing with a team of whippets. These people are so fit. They're like the miles that Sean Longstaff and Joe Linton are getting through is surreal. But last night when Willock went round the wing and chipped that ball over for Joe Linton, he skinned them. And it's not what I would say is his natural game. I always think his natural game is tucking just inside and not going down the wing. He went down the wing like a pure left winger, like Isaac did. So all the players are now doing more. They express themselves more. They're running more because they know if they don't, they won't get in. So Matt Target, well done. Miggy, well done. And Steve, it's a hard team to get in. It's a hard team to keep getting picked for every week. You know what I mean? And I think he's rightfully rotated for the Champions League. Yeah,
he's getting into the mood of Champions League football. There's no doubt about that. Matty Target, though, he was a good player for us last season, Mitch. You know what I mean? And to see him back in the black and white shirt, because I've championed him a bit on this show. I love to see him get an opportunity, and he did. You know what I mean? And I don't think he let himself down at all. I think he had a decent game.
No,
not at all. I think for an hour he was spot on. Looked like he'd never really been away. But then once the tiredness set in. He took one for the team with the pull on Iwobi because he knew he was done, but that's being professional as well, And so I don't think he fault much of what he did. I thought his delivery from some of the corners he took was quite good as well, and again gives you another option to Trippier. Not the whole weight then is not on Trippier's shoulders every time we get a dead ball, and you look relatively comfortable for most of the time on the pitch. Miggy, what frustrated me about Miggy was his first touch was off, I thought, last night. Too often his second touch was a tackle. And that's obviously rustiness. Like, he relies on high energy. He's always going to have high energy. I'd hate to see somebody give him a can of Red Bull. God knows what you would be like. Can you imagine? give him some blue Smarties and a can of Red Bull. Jesus, we wouldn't see him for a fortnight.
That energy drinks are available.
I know. But that was what frustrated me about him last night. He just looked that little bit off in terms of his first touch. But he always seems more comfortable when he's surrounded by Bruno and Trippier on that right hand side. And so look at easing them back in is not a bad way to do it, is he? He did a job. As a team, we did a job. That first hour, we really had to battle that through. And like I said before, it felt very much to me like preparation for going to horrible places in Europe every now and again. It had that same kind of vibe, and was certainly more than passed the test.
Steve, again, it just shows the strength and depth. And I think somebody put the point up earlier on. I can't find it now, but they said, at the start of the season, we were saying, we lacked strength and depth. But yet, fast forward to the back end of the season, the business end, and now everyone's saying we've got strength and depth. And that's down to Eddie Howe, because he's transformed the likes of Joe Linton at the start of the season, Almiron at the start of the season. Now, I heard it said on an interview the other day, like to Jacob Murphy, this is his time now. He's now grasped the opportunity. He's got in. Joe Willock, who I think we've all been scratching my head going, where's the Joe Willock that turned up at Newcastle and banged in 7 goals in a row? Where's he? Where's that lone player gone? Yet he's been doing a lot of work, but not getting the breaks. The last couple of games, he's looked unplayable. He's looked like my dad said today, he came around with a cup and he said to us, you know what, Steve? He said, the biggest compliment I can pay Joe Willock is that he's looked every inch like Bruno in the last couple of games. And I got where he was coming from. That ball he put in last night, which, he played with his other foot, we'll have to add. Not his usual foot, his other foot, which led to the bullet header. Wow, I mean, it was just amazing. But, it's the Matt Target situation. It's strength and depth. We've been crying out for it. People saying we need a left back. Probably do in the summer, but great to see him being able to be part of it. Eddie having the faith to start him, and then obviously hooking him and bringing Dan Burn on when he needed to. But just great to see him back in the team. He deserved it for everything he did for us last season.
Yeah, I think people forget that when a player's out for a long time for the injury, tend to forget how good that player was. And Matt Targett was very, very good fullback. We paid £15 million for him. And I think to a man, every Newcastle United supporter was desperate to make sure when it looked as though we weren't going to sign him permanently, that the pressure was on in Newcastle United to actually get his name permanently inked as a Newcastle United player. And then all of a sudden he's injured. Dan Burn comes in. Dan keeps his place and in a position that he's not naturally suited to as well. Although I do believe by statistically, he actually played more games as a left back for Brighton than he did as a central defender, which I heard last night, and that quite surprised me. But I think we tend to have short memories when a player's out injured, and we also forget in Target with him being out for so long that naturally he's going to tire, especially at the pace that Newcastle United play and the pace that Everton tried to match us with. And they tried their best, but they didn't have the quality. And as Mitch said, it's not the sort of game that they aspire to play normally. That's not their normal style. So they're naturally tired, as well as naturally not understanding how to play the game. With Everton, it's just like hit and rush, isn't it? It's just hit and rush, hit and run, kick the ball, hope for the best. Newcastle's like, it's totally different. It was contained. It was well structured. It had a purpose. The passes, the movement off the ball. Whereas they tend to, when they did run, they tend to run into blind alleys and things like that. But I've been a critic of Eddie Howe earlier in the season, and I've said it many times on here that one of the disappointing aspects of Eddie was his game management, his ability to bring substitutes on at the right time, his lack of substitutions. That's part of the game that's evolved as the season's gone on, as he's got to know his squad an awful lot more, as they've developed things in training, as he's created a style, as players like Isak have come back fit and Wilson have come back fit. It's allowed him to suddenly become adaptable in his style of play, in what he was looking for, and for to get it all that blend. And now he's making the right substitutions at the right time. We always said that the difference between, say, let's say a Murphy and a Saint Maximin at the start of the season was, we always said Eddie Howe trusted Murphy. I don't think he ever trusted ASM to get what he wanted out of a 90-minute game in the style that he wanted the game to progress. And I think that perhaps Eddie was also lucky that the injuries to ASM meant that he could then really, really stamp the style of football and get that embedded into a group of 14, 15 players. And then he has that gifted and talented player in ASM that he can bring in and create the havoc. Whether we'll ever see that as the season progresses, I'm not too sure, because I think Eddie's one of those managers that when he gets a style, he'll stick to it. So I'm sure as we start talking about future games, whether ASM's injury troubles will mean that we don't see him for the rest of the season, or whether it's not going to be for another 3 weeks, by which time he's just thrown in, or whether he even has a future at Newcastle United. All of these are great conversations that we're going to have over the next few weeks and then into the summer, as Newcastle United qualify for the Champions League, and as Keith says, start to go into that higher echelon of signing and quality. Top quality with experience. I don't think any of our squad have got the experience of Champions League other than Kieran Trippier, where he probably played in the Champions League for the team in Spain that he was involved with. So it's all great stuff. It's all exciting.
George, Matt Targett, good to see him back.
Yeah, definitely. And left back was a position I played quite a lot in it when I was playing, and understand it a fair bit. And I've always liked Matt Targett's positional. Plus, his judgment on overlapping and when to support the winger and that sort of thing, I think is very good indeed. Almost as good as Trippier, actually. And I do agree with the lads saying it was good to see somebody else having a go at a set piece, not just Kieran Trippier all the time. And it does offer a different change. So, yes, I was delighted to see Matt come back. and have what I thought was a very reasonable game for somebody who's been missing for quite a while. And it'll boost him, of course. You know, getting back on the pitch is what he wants, and now we'll see it. Other than that, I mean, he's for me. If we get another left back, he's always going to be competition for whoever comes in for me, because I think he's still at that quality. The interesting thing is that taking the dead ball, of course, is one of the reasons that the Aston Villa manager wanted rid of him, because he brought that Dingy, or whatever they call him, from Everton specifically to take dead balls, and Matt Targett was the dead ball taker, so we got the benefit of that. So I think I enjoyed Matt Targett coming back in. I agree with the lads, he tired a little bit, but so allowed Eddie to put Dan Burn back on, and he had made a contribution as well. So it all adds to the togetherness for me as well. Yeah.
Okay, great stuff. We are half an hour into the show. As always, we've got plenty to get through. Day I Met first. The day I met, we're asking you to send in photographs of you with somebody from Newcastle United, both past and present. This one is an unknown. I found this in, I obviously get these sent these and save the files. It's Kevin Keegan. I've got no idea who he's with. So if that's you, there you go. Thanks for sending us it. Whenever you send us it, I've got no idea. But thanks for sending it. The funny thing is that I then found this one. And that's Barry Hogan, who does the fans forum.
Yeah.
And when I sent it to Barry asking if that was Barry, he went, no. And then 2 minutes later, he said, yes, that's me. So I presume he was looking at the person on the left. But yeah, Kevin Keegan again. So thanks for that, Barry. He must have sent us that a few blue moons ago. But anyone's got any photographs of themselves with people past or present at Newcastle United, send them in just so I can play the music to annoy everybody. Before I forget, last week, talking about annoying people, we do have comments section underneath the video. So if you missed the show and you don't get a chance to watch us live, then you obviously have the opportunity to leave a comment under the video, which is quite good. I do read them all, and I reply to them if there's anything in there relevant. Derek Platten last week, I've got to issue, well, I'm not going to issue an apology. Keith Patterson has to issue an apology. Keith, listen to this. I'm about to turn off. How disrespectful to be stuffing your face while supposedly putting out an entertainment video. Oh, he's not happy. He's not happy. Well, to be honest, I went up to see my father-in-law before, and he goes, "Are you doing the show tonight, the Amigos?" I went, "Aye." He says, "Aye, last week Keith was having his tea, wasn't he?" And that's what reminded us about the comments. So Derek,
just to put it in perspective, I was in hospital with two people last week.
Yeah.
And I got home at about 10 to 5, and the taxi was outside 7 o'clock. So someone tell me how I can get in the taxi, eat, and get out by doing it. Like, and I just sit there and think, like, it's easy. Sometimes it's easy to people who say, "Look, I'm not going to do it. I'm just not going to show," but you do it. You do your bit. You don't get paid for it. You do it just from your
for the crack, for the love. So there you are, Derek. There's his explanation.
So Derek, if I've upset you, I'm sorry, but really, I don't care.
Exactly.
You've upset them again now.
I did address it though, Derek, so at least you can't say that we didn't address it. I'm going to ask you another question, lads, and similar one from a couple of people here. And I've got a separate one for George, roughly on the same thing. But Alan Little says, one thing that I've been thinking today is, are the current squad of players and the way they perform, pressing, fitness, etc., are they better than the entertainers? I know it might be too early to compare. And somebody else, we can combine all of these questions. Funko Freddy says, does anybody think that we could be the new Invincibles within the next couple of years? And I think that was it on the entertainer section. So yeah, look, again, my dad popped round for a cup of the day. Me and him had this conversation, and my dad said after Manchester United, that is the best match he has seen, best team performance he has seen at St James's Park ever as a Newcastle fan. Now my dad goes back to 1962 as a supporter. So my dad said that is the best game he has ever seen at St James's Park, the best performance he's seen from start to finish. And that to me says that they are better than the entertainers. So for me personally, I've got to agree, the football I've seen from this team is far better. And I think it's because defensively we're more of a defensive unit, but we've still got the attack and press that the entertainers had. So what's your thoughts, Keith, on this? Is it too early to compare?
I think it's easy to compare because I think the entertainers had the benefit of buying two mega strikers, like two of the top strikers in the country, Shearer and Ferdinand. Or you can go back to the Andy Cole days, and then you can think of putting Asprias in and people like that. So the entertainers was really the real deal. It was like when all the spending was finished. So when you look at the entertainers, that was the team that was going to win us the title. And that was in the day, that was some mega signings. But when you look at this team, we're not there yet. This team is we've bought three gems, Bruno Botman and Isak, but we've still got 9 people who featured against Spurs in that fixture that were playing under Steve Bruce. So for me, this team's outperformed because they haven't, they're not. This isn't the finished article. But I think some of these people have brought themselves into that forum. And I think some of these players aren't supposed to be in the forum and aren't supposed to be performing, but they've just thought, well, this is my chance. This is my chance to stake a place. So I think these people are outperforming the entertainers in terms of what we've paid for them, what background they brought in, and what they've achieved. And I think these are harder to beat. I think I think Howe's coaching these people as well I've ever seen the team coach, because they hard to beat. And if you didn't believe that, watch the first hour against Everton last night. They kicked some kind of shite out of us. And all Newcastle did was just kept going and going and going and going, and they wouldn't be knocked off the ball. They butchered Spurs. They battered Man United, like Steve's dad says at home. And this team is special. But once we get third place, what will happen is we'll go out and buy 3 players of the ilk of Burn Botman and Isak. We'll go and buy 3 top dollar players. And then you've got 6 diamonds. You've probably got about 9. It's playing above themselves, like Will, like Murphy, like all these people going to do it. So I just don't think anybody could question this squad. And I think in terms of the completeness, I think the entertainers were more complete they signed all the people they wanted to sign. This is a moving target. This is an ongoing project. And I think this team, before it gets to the level the entertainers got now, it's got 2 more years of buy-in. Judge it then, and I think it'll have outpassed the entertainers considerably. But for effort and some of the players you put in there, I think this team's as good as anything I've ever seen at Newcastle in terms of the spend and the results.
Mitch, you're nodding away there.
Yeah, look, I always find it difficult to compare teams across eras because the football's very different. You want to talk about the Brazil 1970 team and how they'd fare now, and you want to talk about Leeds, when they were winning everything. You want to talk about the Liverpool team of the 70s. It's very, very difficult to compare across eras. One thing I would say is this squad are better athletes than the entertainment. 100%. There's no doubt about that.
Definitely.
Philip Albert is not in the quilted camel trying to tap everybody up. Warren Barton isn't in there biting my ex-missus on the arse. Peter Beardsley isn't in there rounding everybody up at the end of the evening trying to get them all home. You know, these are the very different beasts. They work hard, they play hard, and they are far better athletes. Does that make them better players? Not necessarily. One thing I do think is with the right signings, this squad has unlimited potential. And I don't say that lightly. On the evidence of the last few weeks, I'm still convinced that Villa was a combination of, that was our knacker phase. We needed a little bit of home comfort after the 3 games on the road, and Emery worked out a way to match with. And they're really the only side that's matched with in terms of athletic ability this season, in my opinion. I think with the right signings, this squad has unlimited potential and can go and do whatever they want to do. And I think we're just seeing the embryonic start of something. I've never seen 20 minutes of football. I've said this before and I'll say it again. I've said it on 3 different shows now. That 20 minutes against Spurs, I've never seen 20 minutes of a football match like that. Ever. Anyway. That was pure decimation. No mercy. What we did last night to Everton, between Willock and Isaac, they took apart a right back and a centre back who both went to Everton for 30 million quid plus each, and made them look, I'm not even going to say ordinary, awful, poor. You know, we've got players who've got levels of skill that I think we're still just tapping the surface of. And you combine that with the mentality that Eddie Howe's created within the dressing room. There's a mindset in there which, again, I don't think I've ever seen it cascaded before. And I feel very lucky. We got a little insight into it when we were crossing Riyadh. You suddenly realised what was going on. We suddenly realised how tight that squad and the management and the owners are together. We suddenly realised why Murphy was getting all the love within the dressing room he was getting. There's the kid's box office. He's got a lovely lad in so many different ways. And to see him reap the reward by putting the ball in the back of the net now, and the way he's loving it as a boyhood Newcastle United fan, is exceptional. And there's so much more to come. It's in their hands. Do you want it? How badly do you want it? And who do you want around you? Who do you want? I think when it comes to selecting the signings, they're definitely wanting to keep a certain calibre of player on and off the pitch, because that dressing room needs to be fostered and nurtured and allowed to grow in terms of mentality, commitment and desire, as well as the ability on the pitch. And I genuinely think there is unlimited potential there. Will they surpass the Entertainers the first time they win something? Of course they will.
Steve, the Entertainers, Eddie Howe. Somebody asked a question about Eddie Howe. Is it time to call him one of the greatest managers we've had? But again, I mean, what does he need to win something? It's comparisons are always going to be there. I think in the past, one might have looked at this as a bit of you could have looked at it as an Alan Pardew season, I would call it, where it's a one-off, and then Newcastle are suddenly back to where they should be in the eyes of other football supporters. But this is a completely different feeling. This is a team that's got a good mixture of youth and experience, and a hell of a coach, good owners who haven't really opened the purse strings yet because they're being very careful and wise with the financial fair play. I think they're probably getting there. It's going to be hard for the Entertainers to take, but I think they're going to be usurped.
Yeah, they are. Eventually they will. But two different situations, isn't it, Steve? If you go back to Keegan era, Keegan as a manager, an ex-player, he came in, there was the romance, there was the love affair that we already had with Kevin, and then what he did, taking us from what was basically rock bottom to being up there as with the name itself, the Entertainers. You know, that was the name that was given. Then you had the romance sort of Sir Bobby coming back. Eddie Howe coming in as manager was totally different. Eddie Howe came in. We didn't know Eddie Howe from Adam in terms of any relationship with Newcastle United. He was previously a manager at Bournemouth. He'd done quite well there. He hadn't been involved in football for a couple of years. He'd gone out and learned his trade, apparently. And according to the press, he wasn't even my first choice. He came in. Do you remember the start he had? 9-10 games. He couldn't buy a win. And then all of a sudden something clicked. And it was very much a case of Eddie, as he said, if you remember when he came in, I'll give it 10 games. And that's when I'll suss out who's who in my squad, what we're going to do. It all clicked after the cup game. And we've never really looked back. The game that we play is totally different to the Entertainers. We play fast, we play strong, we play on the break. I don't think the Entertainers played on the break in the manner that we did. Yes, we always had an outlet ball in Gillespie, for example, or we had an outlet ball with Ginola. We had two dual strikers in it, whether it was Shearer and Ferdinand, or whether occasionally you would have Amiobi slotted in there later on. And we had Duncan Ferguson at one point at the later stages, which was after the Entertainers. But there's that crossover period. But I think this team's has got to agree 110% with what Mitch said. They're fitter, they're stronger, more athletic. The game is different. The style of football is different. The power that players have. The opposition are different as well. The oppositions we shouldn't forget that we're playing really, really top class players as well. The opposition are all top class. They're top class clubs with good managers, doing their trying to compete. The pressure I think is far greater now than it was. You can tell that by the fact that 10 managers, I think it is, in the Premier League have lost their jobs this season. You know, that's how the game's evolved. That's the sort of pressure. And Eddie Howe's risen to all of that. He's risen to all of that, and he's created a very, very good football team who is playing, I think, some of the most exciting football that I've seen at St James's Park in many a long while. I loved watching the Entertainers, but what I'm seeing here is the start, I think, of something really, really special. I'm enjoying going into St James's Park. I sat there flabbergasted in the first 21 minutes. Couldn't believe what I was looking at. Nobody else around me could believe it. The hand slapping, the hugs that everybody was giving each other, the look of sheer joy and shock that was on everybody's faces during that game last weekend. And then you could see it. I mean, it wasn't the game the other night. Very, very professional. Last night's game, very, very professional. Sometimes we didn't get performances like that under Keegan, but I think it's Keegan was gung ho, Eddie Howe's controlled, managed, and the team performs the way he wants it to perform as per a script. Keegan was very much, there's the script, rip it up. Go out, lads, and then I'll let you know how you're doing at half time, and we'll try and sort it among ourselves. That's the way and that was the romantic side of Kevin, which we all loved, and that's what are we gonna see? Are we seeing something special? Yes, we are. I'm comparing a blend of apple with another blend of apple, and I can't decide which apple I prefer the best, which one's the sweetest, which one's the nicest. It just depends on what I've previously eaten, I think, and that's where it is with comparing the Entertainers with comparing these guys. You know, it depends on your mood, I think, Steve.
George, somebody's saying that we shouldn't be, why compare? We should just enjoy. But I mean, it's nature, isn't it, to compare? And
Right.
At the moment, from our perspective, it's just great, isn't it, just to sit and watch.
Absolutely. I mean, how many times on the various platforms I come on have people come and said, well, you know, who's your favourite player and all that sort of thing, and it's always difficult to do that. Then I stop at Jackie Milburn, because for me, he was the first athlete for me. Jackie Milburn was using weights and doing all sorts of exercises that the other players like Frank Blennan and Robbie Mitchell thought he was bloody crackers. But that was Jackie got all that off his professional sprinting trainers, not from the football trainers. And that's what made him different. You have a look at the old photographs when they won the cup, the pictures in the dressing room. The only bloke with his getting pictures taken with his shirt off in those days was Jackie Milburn, because none of the others had a six-pack. they had a brown nail, but not as... So, yeah, it is difficult to compare. But I go back to what your dad said to you, Steve. I think if you recall, after the Manchester game, I too said that that's the best game I've seen since the Entertainers. And I've got to say, add that to the first 45 minutes against Spurs. That 45 minutes is one of the best 45 minutes of football I've seen anyway, with any teams, not just Newcastle United. That's how I put that first 45 minutes. It was just unbelievable. The skill levels, the pace, the defensive skills. You know, there were things that went on that people just have glossed over. I mean, there were 4 crunching tackles by Dan Burn, who'd been getting pelters recently because of his play at left back, that were important to that game. And one of them led to the brilliant goal by Isak from Willock's pass. It was a Dan Burn tackle that started that off. So it's all round, and I've not seen that ever at Newcastle United, and certainly puts them up there with the Entertainers as being the best for me. It's not difficult to get there, because they're just doing extra. It's amazing that it's doubly amazing when you think, as Keith said it, the 9 lads in that squad that faced Tottenham had Bruce Ball for 2 years, and they've survived it. I mean, the other things that run through my mind. Jacob Murphy, how long did Rafa wait to get him from Norwich? Ages and ages and ages. Rafa was determined to have him. The only trouble is, when he came, he ended up with bloody Bruce, not developing him at all or anything else. And same with Shaw. Rafa brought Shaw for next to nothing. What a player he's been turned down, thanks to Eddie Howe. So there's so much extra going on. And I reckon with 2 or 3 really good signings in the summer, and I'm not even thinking about big money signings. I want them to do what they did before. Go and find another Isak, another Dan Burn, another, the signings that they made and brought in very quietly and weren't really big money signings. Let's have 2 or 3 more of them. And I reckon our talent spotters seem to have the skill for that. But more importantly, Eddie Howe will want players that will fit in. And if we get that, I think we're in for a fantastic couple of years, if not more.
Me too. Okay, halfway through the show almost. I'm going to go with Tweet of the Week. Plenty of tweets. We had to do that many. We had to do some on Geordie's here, Geordie's there midweek. So got rid of most of the Spurs ones. Technically, the missing sausages are still in the fridge. Little bit of artwork here. Van Gaal. Very good.
Oh my God.
Good likeness as well. Not a lookalike. Van Gaal. Just want to congratulate Wrexham on their promotion, especially their owners. Weird how no one ever mentions how many people Deadpool has executed, though. It's one rule for Newcastle and another for the other.
Very good.
Toon Poles was absolutely buckled at the stadium-wide announcement to people outside the ground saying their card readers are broken and to go to Tesco Express if you want to get cash out. Classic. Great bit of advertising. It sucks when I read as read and not read. So I have to reread read as read so I can read correctly and it can make sense. See, I can't even do it. Anybody else want to have a go? Steve Hasty, you're usually good at these.
No, I can't even see it, man.
Very good.
Well,
I did like that. No, I'm not going to ask you, George. That would have been bad crack. Jonathan Anderson sounds like a made-up player after 20 seasons of Championship manager. Ika Bravo. It does actually, doesn't it? Yeah, it just sounds like one of those Championship manager players. Another one back in time as well. If you remember this, don't forget to take an ibuprofen for your back today. Lots of big fuss about the alert that came through at St James's Park on most people's phones on Sunday. David Stevenson got his on his old Nokia. And hippos can run faster than humans on land and swim faster than humans in water, which means the bicycle is your only chance of beating a hippo in a triathlon. Always plenty of good advice on Twitter. Someone just got served this Guinness in Low Fell. I just wanted to get your views on that, Mitch.
Hell is that?
That is, whoever served that, there's a special place in hell waiting for them.
Yeah.
That looks like a latte. If nothing else.
It looks awful.
It does look awful. Thanks, Ian Hull, as usual. Magic Mike grossed 167 million. If you still think girls like dad bods, keep dreaming, pal. Simon replied, Shrek grossed 484 million, just so we're clear. And somebody's bin this week. I identify as a green bin. Those of you who played on a Sunday will understand this one. Old Sunday League player.
Oh, yeah.
Very good. Thought that was powerful.
Needs a lesson on how to head the ball.
And the Spurs fans were tweeting about getting to level 7.
Coming down again.
It was easier coming down. They slid down them banisters quick enough, didn't they? Husband, what's for dinner? Wife, nothing. Husband, we had nothing last night. Wife, I know I made enough for 2 days.
Oh, God.
And you'll be careful out there. Just saw an undercover K9 using binoculars.
Brilliant.
This was classic. James Melville. Police are investigating a suspicious incident on a motorway. They would like to contact Mr. Wiley Coyote to assist them with their investigation. And thanks for this one, Mark Byers. Is there any air fryer that can handle a family of 8? Tom McDonald replied, take it easy, Jeffrey Dahmer. That caused a right stir, by the way, because loads of people reacted to that. And I'm not being funny. People were going mad about cereal.
I tell you what, that wouldn't bother Mark Byers one jot.
No.
Well, I'm telling you now, there's a lot of people just started going bonkers about serial killers and that kind of thing. So there was a bit of flack flying around. It didn't bother Mark, right? No, it definitely didn't bother Mark. Anyway, on with the tweets. This one, worth the tweet of the week, says Tim Cairns. Daddy, what did you do to help save the planet? I jumped on a snooker table and let off orange dye everywhere. And when you unexpectedly show up at the Olympic Games, ta-da!
That's class. Love that.
Tim Cairns with this one as well. What is the chances of having intimate relationships with 20 blind women?
Yeah.
Jailed, a man with stammer. Judge rules he's unlikely to complete his sentence.
Oh, God.
Oh, my God.
And I saw a man going uphill with a trolley full of horseshoes, 4-leaf clovers and rabbit's feet. I thought, wow, he's pushing his luck.
Oh, God.
Stephen, man.
And Batman's recurring nightmare, Ozzy Osbourne eating his head. Thanks, Ian, for all your stuff this week. Thanks to Dunnell. At a couples counselling meeting, the speaker mentioned that couples are so disconnected that 85% of husbands don't know their wife's favourite flower. Paddy turned to his wife and whispered, "It's self-raising, isn't it?"
Oh, God.
Pretty sure this is how Cocaine Bear really started.
That's funny, that.
Yes.
And did you hear Julie Andrews will no longer endorse cheap lipstick, lads? Well, it crumbles easily and it makes her breath smell. She explained, "The super colour fragile lipstick gives me halitosis."
Oh, God.
Oh, dear me.
Did the
Liverpool
steel all
news.
night inventing them?
Gemma Collins says she's got a panic room in her new £1.3 million home. David replied, "You spelled picnic wrong." And from the SAFC Facebook, hot dog and a pint at St James's Park, £10. And then they put this photograph down there, which you can see. But as Ian Russell pointed out, it was Dusseldorf Football Club. Why on earth is he bothering to do that? So somebody then did some digging on the Sunderland hot dog. And there it is. That's a hot dog at Sunderland.
Hot dog, sausage, and a burger bun.
Yeah.
Burger bun.
God, this was brilliant. Jacob von Hogflume's blue plaque outside the house, 1864 to 1909, inventor of time travel, lived here in 2189. Excellent, that. City of Sunderland, don't book the Seagulls, said Jimmy. And a new Netflix series coming out from Sisters to Seagulls.
Oh, God.
God.
And Paul Whitfield, thanks for that. I've seen that knocking around in various guises.
Yeah.
When your side chick wants to take a pic, but you're protected by the Lord God himself.
Ah.
Dear me.
And this one from Jimmy. A thing I know what I want for dinner. Order 3 ways online.
Oh, dear.
And thanks to Jimmy for this one as well. I think God wants me to pet this cat. One Spurs one in here. Can we have another ball? What's wrong with the one we have? Newcastle are playing with that one, said Harry Kane.
Yes.
And he's going to buy all his bald friends this T-shirt, says Jimmy.
Look at that. Dear me.
We'll get one of them, Steve.
Me and you, Keith, yeah. Stuart Penman asked me to put this one up. Missing person. If anyone sees this man, please do not approach. He is very upset and may cry. That's a Spurs fan who was sitting with Stu watching the match. Goes by the pseudonym of Roger.
He
And
went-
He went
2-0. 2-0. He downed his drink and walked out. And everybody thought he was just being a drama queen. Then they saw his car speeding down the road. And then by the time he got home, there were 5 down and he was even less happy.
Brighton have confirmed that if Sunderland get promoted, they'll not be sending away fans to the Stadium of Light next season. The spokesman for the Seagulls said they aren't taking any chances.
Dear me.
And there's some Arsenal crumble in the dessert rack.
And they did.
And they certainly did. And this one. Isn't this the best birthday card in the world from my 10-year-old daughter? I'm ready for training, Big Dan Byrne. It says, happy birthday to the best dad ever. And then it puts in the writing that the girl's done. Happy birthday, Daddy. I love you lots and lots. And you are the only person who can beat Dan Byrne. Absolutely brilliant, that. And the final one this week. No, I've got a couple more. This one from Johnny. We should sell 10-minute section tickets to away fans so they can pop in, have a moan, and then leave. They're going to have to get used to it.
Ah, yes.
Thank you, Johnny. That was nominated by Keith. Got a couple more, yeah. The one on the right enjoying his neighbours declining our away end. Thank you for that one, Barry. Claustrophobia is the fear of closed spaces. For example, I'm going to the pub and I'm scared it'll be closed. And poor Godfrey, that bloody Isaac will be the death of me, said Alan McKenzie. Sub fam, I think I got the assist of the season against Spurs. Hold my BS, says Isaac. And tweet of the week, a Scouse blue tit whistling the Z car theme. You can see his song. Yeah, we've had that one. This one, Klopp did say we've got no ceiling, as Mark Gillespie takes the ceiling out at Everton last night. And good morning. Is this the helpline for alcoholics? Yes. How do you make a mojito? Thank you. Tweet of the week's this one. It was a late entry. Thank you, Liam Kennedy, for sending this on from one of his mates. If they finish in the top 4, I'll come go naked down the big market, said Mick Quinn. Oh my
Get on,
God.
Nick.
Yeah,
Looking forward to this, Mick. Looking forward to this. At least he didn't delete it. Anyway, if you got your tweets, send them in. Thanks to Zora for all her usual ones as well. Okay, Keith, let's talk a little bit of politics. From our perspective, Aston Villa CEO coming out and saying that the takeover needs to be investigated. Beth Rigby was the person who was interviewing him. What was your take on that, mate? I mean, it's just getting boring now for me.
You've got to look at it, at what's going on. There's a deliberate campaign by the Big Six, now joined by Aston Villa, simply to overturn the takeover at Newcastle. That's all it is. It's a campaign, and they're lobbying the Premier League to try and do it. That was a toilet. The problem is the teams that's lobbying don't know what the Premier League asked for. They don't know what terms they set down to Newcastle before they passed the takeover. They're just guessing. And the Premier League can't tell them what they did because it's private and confidential. So the chairman or the CEO of Aston Villa is purely guessing at what's in the agreement from the Premier League to why they signed Newcastle deal off. He's purely guessing. He's on a fishing expedition and he's trying to find out what terms the Premier League gave Newcastle. Because the only way they can overturn the takeover is if we've changed in something we've done. So what he's doing is he's getting big reporters in. And it's amazing how Sky will interview these people, but they won't interview the people who support the Newcastle takeover. The golf case in America has nothing at all to do with Newcastle United ownership. So there's nothing being discovered or found in America in any court case that in any way affects the takeover of Newcastle, and Nick DeMarco's confirmed as such, and he's seen the whole case. If Newcastle agreed that Saudi state would not control the football club, they don't own any more today than what they did then. So if they passed the Saudis to take this on in October 21, the Saudis haven't controlled it anymore since that date. And that's the legal angle. They've got the same control, if you want to call it, or ownership or percentage now as they had then. So if it was legal then, it's legal now and nothing's changed. The ownership has employed executives like Darren Eales, Silverstone, and other people like that, Dan Ashworth, to run the football club, and the kingdom of Saudi Arabia and running the football club, if that's in the terms. If I'd interviewed the Aston Villa director, I'd have just said to him, look, you're obviously getting arsey about this, and you're obviously fancying your chances of getting further up the Premier League, and you see something called Newcastle United, which is obviously going to stop you getting where you want to get. So based on that, why don't you put your evidence down, clear evidence of what you've got that suggests Newcastle United are breaching the terms in which the takeover was passed? If you asked him to do that, he would deliver absolutely nothing because he is just fishing. The reason they've got nothing is being proven. The reason that Aston Villa and the Big Six and the other 14, if you want, the 19 clubs in the Premier League have got nothing on Newcastle was proven the week after the takeover when they called an emergency meeting with the Premier League, of which Newcastle weren't invited to, and they asked what the takeover was passed for and on what grounds? Well, if they'd known what was happening, they would have just said it's wrong because of X, Y, and Z, but they didn't. They went along and complained that it shouldn't have been passed, but they didn't know why it had been passed. And they still don't know at this date. And the Premier League weren't allowed to tell them. In the same way that the Premier League has never explained to clubs why Crystal Palace has shareholders in a Delaware company which are hidden. So you can't question our directors who are up front because Crystal Palace are hidden. But the Premier League hasn't explained to the other clubs, the other members, why Crystal Palace allowed hidden directors. What we've got to not lose sight of is if Aston Villa joined the likes of Spurs and Man United, Liverpool, who've been vociferous in trying to stop the growth of Newcastle, there's a huge risk that will amount to something called collective lobbying, where one or more people group up and try and slow the growth in a club, which namely is Newcastle United. There's actual written letters on record in files with King's Counsel where illegal collective lobbying has taken place against the takeover of Newcastle 18 months ago. We paid 6 figures to a QC, now a KC, since the Queen died, to gain counsel or gain legal proof that what they've done against Newcastle is illegal. It's illegal to group together to stop the growth of one company. The people told NCSL that the legal team told NCSL that 4 of the points we raised out of 6 were unstoppable. You couldn't stop them. Since that date, there's been more examples, and I'll quote one here, when Man United refused to trade with only Newcastle on players, shown on Hennessy, Lingard, and others. They just refused to trade, and they singled Newcastle out and wouldn't deal with them. If you do that and you single one club out, but you'll trade with others, that too is illegal to collude against one club's growth. Going back to those claims, they said 4 of them were unbeatable. My belief it's bigger, and my advice to the big 6 at Aston Villa and beIN Sports and Sky Sports is to come from behind your keyboards, put your microphones down, collate your hard evidence, real evidence, not bullshit where you think you guess that some court case about some golf has got anything to do with Newcastle. Just put it down in black and white as hard evidence and then back your balls up. Show us how big your balls are and take Newcastle to court. Take them to court once and for all and challenge them in the courts that they've illegally got a takeover. When you do that, you will lose. And the reason you'll lose is that Newcastle haven't changed anything since the takeover was passed. For you to get that takeover stopped, you've got to prove that it was passed on the 7th of October 21, and we sit here today on the 28th of April 23, and something's changed, but nothing has changed. Everybody knows nothing's changed. The only thing that's changed is that little club in the north that wasn't supposed to do very well has done way better than everybody else. It's pissed on the cornflakes of everybody out there, and it's submerging clubs that's $1 billion in debt. It's smashing through the doors of the Spurs, $1 billion in debt, wanting $3.5 billion to sell. Man United, $1 billion in debt, wanting $6 billion to sell. Little old Newcastle, $305 million, probably with a value now $1.5 billion, probably increased 5-fold. But the biggest thing they've done is they've crashed into Champions League places. So now Newcastle look like they'll finish 3rd or 4th, and that is what all this is about. This is a jealousy thing. This is the big 6 feeling they've lost their entitlement, and this is the wannabes. You know, once was Everton, believe it or not, but the Aston Villas of the world that start to gain something, coming forward and saying Newcastle are blocking passage for them to gain the money. So if they want to take Newcastle to court, 2 things will happen. One is they'll have to prove that something has materially and legally changed since the 7th of October 21. And we all know it hasn't. We all know PIF have done nothing different and have run the club no more different this month than what they did back in October. So they'll lose that case. Second thing is, they will open a door for Newcastle to say what you're doing is anti-competitive. And all the evidence, which still remains active and real, which I've seen with these eyes, which a KC has said to me, that will win, gets the chance to run out. Newcastle have the chance to run that evidence out and take this group of people that's colluding illegally against Newcastle to court. So I think it's a case of put up or shut up. If your balls are big, put your money down. And if you do, PIF will put theirs down. And PIF aren't going backwards. PIF aren't walking away from this. PIF have probably, on guesstimates, increased their sales value fivefold. 305 million, probably to 1.5 billion now. Especially if Spurs think they're worth 3.5 and Man United think they're worth 6. Newcastle fans need to just laugh it off. It's wind, it's jealousy, and it's envy. It's jealousy, the whole thing. Just laugh it off. If it's coming, it will come. If they're going to build a group together and take us on, we'll not stop it. It'll happen. It'll come out in court. But how are they going to run it? Because they're going to have to join together to run a case against Newcastle, and doing that's illegal. So it's going to be a bizarre case to watch. But call me warped, call me kinky, call me mad. I'd love to see it run. I'd love to see it run. I'd love to see them defend the actual real hard evidence I've seen and I've had on my computer. So stop talking, stop worrying fans, stop playing with our mental health, stop being jealous and bitter, and just let Newcastle grow, because that's what we're doing. And the last thing is, if it comes, we will win. And if we win, it'll open the gates in football for Newcastle to dramatically grow faster than what we're currently being allowed to do at the moment.
Neil, you've nodded all the way through that, mate.
Yep. And I'm not going to add anything more to that. I think he's very eloquently put that forward. What I will add is my own little thoughts. Initially about Mr. Purslow, who used to work for Liverpool, remember, and was quite happy to take Roman Abramovich's money at Chelsea for a period of time when he negotiated some out of nowhere a 900 million shirt sponsorship deal with Nike for Mr. Abramovich. And I'm sure he was well rewarded with Mr. Abramovich's money that he was happy to take at the time.
Dead right.
And so, hypocrisy, yeah. But let's also look at the timing of this. And the timing's not accidental, I don't think. Today is number 3 deadline day for the Man United bids to go in. So for me, today's the day we either find out that Sheikh Jassim's 9-2 foundation is a total figment of his imagination, which is what I believe. Or it's been hastily put together by the Qatari government, and people want to point fingers at Newcastle United and say, they're the bad guys, we're okay. The bad guys are there, they're still there in Saudi. It's not us. The timing's not accidental. The timing's not accidental at all, in my opinion. This helps them chuck smoke screens and mirrors around to make us enemy number one in the minds of the public going forward in football, when there's far more murky things happening in the background. I've alluded to on Twitter a couple of times about the WhatsApp I sent to a few of you guys. I think it's fair to say I've got nearly every damn thing right in that WhatsApp, bar one thing. I even called that somebody would chuck their toys out of the cot and say the whole bidding process was a farce and walk away. I just didn't think it would be finished, lunatic. I thought he would be hanging around like a bad smell still. But either way, I think today's the day we'll find out what's really going on there in terms of bids for Man United. And I think this is a nice little ooh, look, a squirrel distraction to keep everything in the minds of the public that the bad guys come from Saudi and we're the bad guys and we have been all along. And it distracts. The timing's not accidental. I really don't believe that. And everything Keith has said, you can endorse 100%. If you want to bring it on, let's bring it on. But then the other thing that Premier League have to do is go back to Man City to ask the same question. Because and then what happens there? The Premier League, for me, have already bottled it with Man City. They've got, 100 charges over a 5 to 6 year period that they want to talk about? Yet nobody seems to be talking about them. Good God, they can't even apply their own rules to Everton. They've had to refer Everton to an independent commission to decide what to do with them breaking FFP. Oh, and while I'm on about FFP, Christian Personal, CEO of Aston Villa, during his time at Aston Villa, they've lost $1 million a month under his direction. How are they avoiding FFP investigation?
It's a week.
Is it a week, is it? Jesus wept. Right, okay. $1 million a week over that period of time. And yet they're getting away with nobody's asking questions about FFP with it. What's going on there? There's certainly a rabbit off somewhere. So, we're just a convenient distraction when somebody wants to point fingers. I don't think the timing's accidental. And I think the bloke's an absolute hypocrite. That's what I think.
Steve?
He's playing 2 or 3 hands at once here. He's playing the court of fans' opinion, and that's every fan other than a Newcastle United fan. Certainly to his own fans, because he's trying to rock up something that doesn't exist. I think he's whipping something up because he wants fan groups of all the other Premier League clubs to get behind some sort of challenge that not be taken on by the Premier League, but will be taken on by the football regulator when he comes in. And I think he's playing a clever little game because I suspect that, well, we know for a fact that the Premier League board themselves are not keen on the football regulator. And the independence of this football regulator is supposed to be coming in the white paper. And I think from what I've been reading, we're actually going to get a kind of shadow football regulator. There'll be an organisation that will sit behind while they get the legislation in place. And I think it's kind of throwing a rat into a barrel here for the fans to try and whip something up that the regulator can take the task. And not being funny, but it smacks to me of a bit of a bear trap for the regulator if they did do that. Especially when you listen to what Keith's saying. It's not the clubs that are wanting to do it, but I think they're wanting to be seen to be doing something, but they're frightened to do it. So they're hoping somebody else will take us along, and if they lose, it's somebody else who gets their backside kicked. And if it's the regulator, then maybe it's the thinking the regulator will get so far, and then the government will intervene and say, no, you can't go down that path. And then there's some sort of political argument that occurs, and then that acts as a sort of buffer or something that then delays the white paper, perhaps. Who knows? Because I think there's games get played within games within the Premier League, within the owners of the Premier League, and I feel as though, as Keith says, they want to fight, but they don't know what they're fighting. And when they get in there, they suddenly find out that it wasn't the fight that they could possibly ever win. But they'll try and push somebody else to the front and do that. So I wouldn't be surprised if that was the path that these sort of conversations that the likes of Purslow and other people. Purslow, of course, was the head of, was he head of Deutsche Bank Investment Partners or something before he took the Liverpool job? I think Deutsche Bank are a bit dodgy, aren't they?
It's not Standard Chartered. Either way, they're dodgy or not.
I think they're the most corrupt bank that ever existed. I think they're a bank which only about 3 or 4 years ago were found to have been so corrupt during the goings on of 2007, 2008 that they ended up paying billions and billions of pounds in compensation. So these guys play in high finance and they think that they can rule the roost on everything, but he's out of his depth on this one. He just needs to shut up, concentrate on his own club instead of wanting to have conversations about other people's. But I don't hear Amanda coming out and talking about Aston Villa. I don't hear Mirdad and Jamie Rubin coming out and talking about Liverpool or Arsenal, unless they're saying decent things about the quality of the football that they might be playing. We don't get involved in the histrionics of
or even Crystal Palace, who Keith quite rightly says have Delaware company owners that nobody knows who they are.
Yep.
It could be bloody Pol Pot
Could well be. And Crystal Palace are a club who are run by and controlled by Steve Parish, who's one of the main contenders in this alternative European group, isn't he? That's come out that's challenging the European Clubs Association because he thinks there should be more say in what's going on financially. And he's worried. He's worried. I listened to Simon Jordan and the rest of them on TalkSport, and they were saying how much he's really concerned about the finances of clubs and not getting their fair share from the European divvy. But at the same time, the bloke doesn't want the teams in the EFL to get their fair share of the Premier League divvy. So it's a different ball game, and they come out and this is the hypocrisy of people who run football clubs. They open their mouths before they engage their brain.
George, your views?
Well, first thing I do when somebody goes on like that, the CEO, I think, well, what's he doing? Is he doing it from a position of strength, or is he doing it for nefarious reasons, or is he worried that somebody's going to look at his club and see what he's doing and see where his owner gets that money from? And it could be the latter, because as soon as you dig, it doesn't take you half an hour to find the connections with Abramovich and the Liverpool connection and the banking connection, and you immediately think, well, this is a 24-carat hypocrite talking about nothing. And then you go into the finance side of it, and Kevin Maguire from Liverpool Finance, he produced a histogram of Aston Villa's losses, and he says that it's $1 million a week, not a month, and it's got worse since this bloke went to become CEO. So, you know, he hasn't got a position of strength at all. On the other hand, who are their owners? Who owns Aston Villa? What do they do? Where do they get their money from? That was the next way I was going to go, but I'm sure I could find that out like you lads could. But it seems to me that when somebody gets nervous,
it's actually, Dad, it's an Egyptian billionaire and an American billionaire.
Right. Okay. So, yeah, I mean, is all that money going to be clean? Is all that money going to be clean? Not a chance. Not a chance. And if you dig too deep, you're going to turn up all sorts of things. And the net result is that I think one of his problems is he's as nervous as anybody that somebody will do some digging, and that his job and his club will be on the line like the others. But I agree with Neil. I don't think it's an accident. This is somebody wanting to be in the Big Six, trying, he thinks, by saying these things that will help them to be part of the Big Six. Actually, I think he'll suddenly find that what he's brought up, people like Manchester City and their owners are a bit straighter than that. They will despise him for what he's saying, in my view, because they know the end result of what he's proposing is a disaster for football, not just for Newcastle United. It's a disaster for football if it comes out. So, yeah, it just an empty vessel making a lot of noise as usual. But I think with the purpose is to ingratiate himself with the Big Six.
Barry Hogan, I've just seen that news actually as well. Yeah, João Pedro at Watford signed a pre-transfer window contract with Brighton. I thought he might have come our way, yeah, but I think there's bigger things and bigger players ahead for Newcastle, Barry. I wouldn't get too upset about that. Okay, wow, tonight has flown over. Nearly 600 watching live. We always say it, we never take you for granted. Thanks very much for tuning in tonight. It's always a pleasure to spend a Friday evening with the lads and with you guys. Okay, I've got half an hour left. I suppose we'll better go for the two lookalikes. Did I just hear you say, oh no, Steve?
No, I said, here we go.
Here we go. I've just seen your. I actually saw your Twitter account. Those of you who don't know Steve's Twitter handle, Old Tritonian on Twitter. He's now got a photo of a dog on there, which I think is just coming round to this now. I presume it's your dog, Steve, is it?
That was our dog, yeah.
It was your dog, that's right. Yeah.
I thought I'd wait and see how long before we twigged on.
I saw it today.
I saw it yesterday.
All right. Got a couple of these sent in from Keith Patterson.
No, it wasn't. It's up Jimmy from America.
Yeah, but via you, Keith.
I know,
Yeah,
but
you
he
could have
said
censored
it.
it, Keith. You could have
He said
censored it. You didn't.
Right, he sent us it. He says Steve here.
You could have censored it, but you didn't.
Sorry. Bloody
Andy
Jimmy.
Cooper, Hasty doesn't give a. That's pretty good, that Steve. Actually, at least it's not a dog. I submitted this one, Steve. I just saw this and thought of you. You and me out on a night out in the early days. That's you on the left, Steve. Back to the best ones, though. Ian Edgar, isn't he adorable? Steve Hasty.
Back the Crufts.
Back to Crufts. Ian Edgar as well sent these ones. A vast array of dogs.
Actually, Ian that's been busy this week, isn't it? Not me.
That one on the top left looks like you, and you can't get away from it.
Hey, you know, and the one in the bottom right, and the one in the top left, right, and the one in the bottom.
Yeah, I think the one in the top right, the teeth just don't look right.
Top left, you got your barber.
Yeah. Thanks for this one. It even strides out like Steve Hasty.
What the hell is this? A bloody chicken or something? Yeah.
Oh, God. This is great. Albert says Hasty was overjoyed today. And somebody sent us one. I'm not. Did I get time to load it? Hold on, I've got to zoom down now because I don't want. Because if not, I'm going to have to use this photo. I got that many in this week that I don't know whether I've got. No, I haven't. So somebody who will remain nameless, I can't remember them unless it turns up, says Keith. They said Keith Patterson's put the pounds on in the background there. Can you see Keith with his two hands up?
You know what, Steve? I thought that. You know Angie. I thought that was Angie. Did you when you saw the picture?
I did. Yes. Yeah.
That'd be fantastic if it was.
Anyway, fantastic. It wasn't, but that wasn't Keith Patterson and it wasn't Steve Hasty either. This one.
Oh, dear me.
Any new ones on there, Steve?
They're all new. They're all new to me.
Top left's got Hasty eyes.
Sam Chipperfield, thank you, mate. Steve Hasty with his new toy.
Pretty close, that actually.
I'm a bit worried about the website that Chippers goes to get these photographs, unless he's out in Saltwood Park or something.
I think Chipper goes to a special website.
I'm sure he does.
Hasty's Max Wall tribute.
Oh, man. Oh.
And Hasty's Veterans tribute.
Listen to him. Listen to him.
Thanks to Rita. There's Steve on the phone on the far left.
Rita, you can leave us out if you want. I don't mind.
This one from Sam Chipperfield. Been to the cinema and seen Hasty in a horror film.
Yeah. Thanks, Sam.
And Mitch says, guess who? Was this Steve Hasty at Everton last night?
That's shopping, picking on you, mate.
Funny looking dog, Steve. Mr. Hasty. Thank you, Andrew.
Yeah. Very funny looking. Yeah.
Could you imagine a dog with a haircut like that?
And thanks to Jimmy, Steve Hasty dreaming of lookalikes. And I wonder if Mr. Hasty would like this one. Thank you, Gary. Some new faces chucking some new stuff in. Thank you, everybody, for your lookalikes. This one, Borough Mag. Thanks to Tom Dixon for this one. Very good.
Oh, my God, that's brilliant.
That's good.
With we're playing Everton this week, someone chucked Neville Southall into the mix in the middle there. Darren.
Yeah.
Good old Darren. Love Darren.
He'll love it because he's part of the lookalikes. Mitch trying his new outfit on. Very good, that, David. Very good.
It's why we've started the Captain Vicky Trauma Centre for any seabird, be that a gull or a tern or even a shag who've been disturbed by recent incidents.
Will Farrell, two look like Matt Ritchie.
Matt Ritchie, poor Matt.
And very good, yeah. Murphy and the Hippo. Willie Mullins and Jamie Vardy. That's very good.
That is good.
Oh, aye.
Yeah.
Into the business end now, lads. Keegan. A young Keegan. Good comparison.
Is that Frank Skinner?
Frank Skinner, yeah.
Aye.
There it is. War Keats seems to have put some beef on during his holidays, but he clearly appreciates Nana. Thanks, David Cook. I found it.
Your Nana Keith.
Elon Musk and Kathy Bates.
Oh, hey, that is good, that.
Excellent, that, isn't it?
That
That
is
was the dogs like.
Excellent.
Good up, man.
John McGinn. And a cushy lookalike from Barry. Al Walid and David Jason.
Yeah, Del Boy.
Friday lookalike, Vigo from Ghostbusters and Harland.
That's brilliant, that.
There's going to be loads of these now, isn't there?
Yep. And Sam Smith looked familiar, says Rocky 2.
Jeez Christ.
Mick Jones of The Clash and Matt Hancock.
I've bought that one for a while. I agree, yes.
Excellent, that, paparazzi. Thank you.
Well spotted.
Van Gogh and Ericsson.
Brilliant. That's
Yeah,
brilliant.
good
That.
one. Good one.
John, nice one.
Superb.
Good one. And this one, Mitch and the Airplane Autopilot.
That's cracking, that one.
Yeah, mate.
Charlton Heston and Harry Kane from Tom Dixon.
I can see that. I can see that.
You did it, you fools.
Both be cheats.
And Luka Modric and Wurzel Gummidge from Rita.
Very good. Very good.
And from Jacob, Joe Linton and Joby McAnuff.
Looks more like Johnny Allen.
Yeah.
Johnny Allen, yeah. Maybe.
Johnny Allen.
Good one.
Ethan Pinnock and Snoop Dogg from Rita.
Johnny Allen again.
Mm.
And a possible winner of a tune lookalike. It's not the winner 100% Mags, but it's a good one. Similar stance, but not. There's a few ahead of you. Stuart Atwell and EastEnders and Bill actor Todd Carty.
Yes. Yes. Very good.
Yeah.
That.
Hackman and Scolari.
Very
Yeah.
good.
Cool.
Yeah.
I mean, they're both Scolari, sadly, I think.
Yeah, I thought they were.
The
Aye.
dogs are much more interesting than hamster.
Hackman, I can see where you're coming from, though. Good job I know what Hackman looks like. Alexander Isak scoring a cheeky goal. And Super Captain Harry Maguire in their 60 million midfielder after Sevilla. So, yeah, there's quite a few. It's a footballer kind of stance, that. But I can see where these are all coming from. Yes, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Again, not the winner. Somebody going for a combo. Street Fighter theme lookalike. Toonstato and Zangief. Bison and Mitch. Sagat and Keith. And Steve and Darlism.
Who the hell's the guy?
He's a character in Street Fighter, mate.
Street Fighters.
Yeah, very good. Yeah,
It's a video game, Keith.
It's using your initiative to do
You need to get down with the kids.
Shia LaBeouf and Karim Benzema.
Yep.
Not bad, Dougie. And Errol Flynn and Olivier Giroud.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you had a bit of a tash, he would be rigger.
Yeah, very good. This Bill Ward, former Coronation Street bad guy, and Robert Patrick from Terminator 2. That's excellent.
Yeah.
That's really good. Not in the top 3 though. Top 3.
Hamster.
I've just spotted ET at the shops. Paul, that's brilliant. That is brilliant. I need to see the front of ET next. Number 2, Mo Salah and the Yorkshire Ripper.
Oh my God. What a comparison. That's good, that like.
It is.
And number 1, Haaland and Gollum.
Gollum. I knew that would be there.
And what is he wearing? Looks like he's wearing a nappy.
How skinny is he?
Look at that. What is that? What a clip. He really is.
There's less ballroom in there than what's in black.
He looks a beast on the pitch. There's not a picking on
Nothing
him.
on him. Nothing
Skinny
on him.
ribbons. Skinny ribbons. Okay, thanks for sending them in. Get them dogs in. There wasn't enough. Okay, Newcastle United take on Southampton in a non-televised game this Sunday, 2 o'clock and St James's Park, as you would imagine, is full to capacity. Southampton didn't take all their allocations. 1,700 tickets is what they had taken for this game. No, the wonder. I wouldn't want to watch Southampton away in Newcastle either. Not in current form for both teams. No pre-match press conference as such. Eddie Howe did have a little one after the game, as is the norm when they go from a midweek game into a weekend game. We just know that the ESM is not going to be available for Newcastle United this weekend. Will he play again is the big question for Newcastle. Who knows? Anthony Taylor referees the game. This is his second game for us. The first was the 2-0 home defeat by Liverpool when Nick Pope was sent off. And on VAR is Robert Jones. You will find Supermac at the Dog and Parrot at 12 and at 4:45. You'll find Gibbo and Ando at Pumphrey's at 12 before the game. And this really, lads, is a big opportunity to to carry on this new run that we found ourselves on. So, Keith, first of all, how important is this game? In the grand scheme of things, 4 wins, I believe, and we're Champions League places secure. But interesting fixtures this weekend, especially Aston Villa, Manchester United. Aston Villa travelling to Old Trafford.
It's massively important because don't underestimate that when you start the season next year, that if you get 4th, you go into the playoffs of the Champions League, and you get 3rd, and you're into the bigger money straight away. I know everyone wants to get group stages, but you've seen teams that's come forth in the past and they've got knocked out early on, and you think, well, what was all that season about to get put out? So there's a big difference in the position and the prize chances by getting 3rd rather than 4th. I think we can do it. We're 2 points ahead of them. They've got a game in hand. They're not playing well. If you think what we destroyed Spurs last week and Man United give a 2-goal lead away. Spurs aren't going to catch us. Liverpool aren't going to catch us. Villa, Brighton, all them not in the running. It's between us and Man United who gets 3rd. And Newcastle, it's massively important. This you give this a game away, or you let Southampton fight for their life and win, and you've just given all that effort away on last night. So it's a huge game. But they all are. We're going to play Leicester's and Leeds and Brighton's. They're all big games. I think we can turn Arsenal over at home now after what I saw against Man City the other night. This team can do anything against anybody. If there's one team in that Premier League who'll give this team room for money, it's Man City. But I think we should have beat them at the start of the season. And I think now we're in a position where next season, put 3 additions in and a couple of fringe players, and we'll be up there. We'll be challenging them because Eddie Howe's getting the best out of his players. Southampton come tomorrow. They're not in the same ballpark as Newcastle. Newcastle should start exactly like they did. I think every team that comes to Newcastle now is going to start like Everton started last night. I think every team have seen that's the only way to stand close to them is to go at them and run them and press them. But Mitch just said earlier on, he says it's all right doing it, starting it, but an hour later you're knackered, you've blown through your ass, and you just sit there and think, well, that was a good plan for 60 minutes. But when they look at the bench and they see the sub coming on, or they're bringing Isak on, and you look at like that, imagine Dan Burn coming on, 6'7" coming on and kicking lumps out when you think you've done a decent job against target. It's the power of the bench that's made the difference for Newcastle since the World Cup, because we started slow and we start picking it up. But Sunday we're going to have too much for them. We'll win 4-0, and I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't start with Isak, because I think he's got a good arrangement between the two of them. That at some stage he might start them both on Sunday. I don't know, but I see him starting with Isak and then bringing Wilson on. And I think he's thinking, well, I dropped Isak after two goals, and I can do the same with Wilson. And I think he's breeding a great culture. You know what I mean? I saw when Isak did what he did, and then Wilson come and jumped on his back, and he was whispering to him and congratulating him. And then when he did his interview afterwards, Wilson was praising Isak and saying that he's a different type of player. Wilson is an out and out, in the box goal scorer, and Isak has so much more to his game in other areas, outside the box, creating, down both wings, everything. He's just a marvelous footballer. I'm hopeful and optimistic, and it's just simple. It doesn't take a genius. Stevie Wonder said this is like, it's just press, overturn, and fight. That's all Newcastle do. Just press, overturn the ball so much that nobody gets any momentum. And when they do it, it's just brilliant. We're just so hard to beat, and then just fight for everything. And you'll not get a bigger fight than you did at the start against Everton. That was vicious. That was hard. There was a lot of challenges weren't pulled that should have been pulled.
Yeah.
A lot of fouls went. There was a clear, blatant penalty on Sean Longstaff. And then when the goalkeeper's trying to push somebody out to play, really pushing somebody out to play in the box? Well, tell us where in the rule book that is allowed to touch the other player and roll them out to play. But he was fouled before that. But we're not going to get nothing off VAR. And I think what Newcastle's done, they've got the policy that if you can't beat them, just batter them. And so I think Southampton will get battered on Sunday.
You've gone 4-0 then. I'm going to do because of the Heeds bet, the last two bets, the 5-1, I'm going to put a quid on 5-1. I'm going to put a quid on 10-0.
You don't mind throwing it about, do you? You don't mind.
Well, a quid.
Putting a few quid out.
A quid each. I'm going to go for Newcastle to beat the Premier League record at the weekend. Why not? Hey, there's a time for Newcastle to do it.
My nana puts 250 on stake.
Can I do each way?
50 pence each way. Up and down, shift a double. Yeah.
Definitely. I've got to apologise for these. I've been looking at a lot of people saying about the adverts. What's happened is YouTube every now and then change things. I noticed there'd been something changed. I didn't quite know what it was, and I haven't had an email notification. But apparently, what they're doing is they're now adding ads into live broadcast, which they normally just do on the pre-record. So I can opt out, but because I've only seen it now and people have said, why is there all these ads? I can only opt out once the program's finished. So I will do that, folks, so don't panic. Tom Dixon's also asking where Joe is. He's at the school with his daughter tonight, so he couldn't make it, unfortunately, tonight. He passes on his apologies. Harvey Steve WI said 10-0 as well. Yeah, okay, yeah, 50 pence each. It saves me 50 pence. That's great. Let's do it, Mozza. Before I come to Mitch, let's chuck in Toon Stato, who did submit his video, and I've just managed to load it.
Hello guys, what incredible couple of last games. I'm running out of stats, so actually the stats are so many that a couple of minutes are not enough. The team is flying. We have 62 points from 32 games, and we have had only one season with better points tally after 32 games. Is the legendary 95-96 season in the Premier League, when we had 67 points after the 32 games. You might remember that we finished at 78. If we win our last remaining 6 games, we are on course to finish with 80, which can be our best ever season in the Premier League out of 38 games and in total. When it comes to away games, we have already won 8, and we have done so only in 3 previous seasons, back in 93-94, when we played in total 21 games, 2001-2002, and 2011-2012. We still have 3 away games remaining, so we might as well beat our best ever performance of 9 wins in a season. When it comes to goals, we have scored 29 goals away from home so far after the Everton demolishment, and so far the record was 27 in 2 seasons, 2011-12 and 2002-2003. When it comes to Southampton, we've already beaten them 3 times this season, and they might become the first club we beat 4 times in a single season for a long time. I need to check since when, but the funny thing is that it will be the 3rd manager that faces us in Ruben Selles. We've already beaten the Saints with Ralph Hasenhüttl in his last game for them, and twice with Nathan Jones in the League Cup. So, a legendary season in the making. Let's enjoy it. Away the lads. Up the Champions League we will go.
I love it. Thanks, Andrea, as always. Mozza's going to send that 50 pence via Bitcoin. That's great. Can I get tax relief on that, Jules? Check that up for us. Mitch,
Great.
what's your views?
Couple of things before I come to the game. One, that thing about shirt sponsorship. I had a discussion with somebody last night who asked us to keep the gob shut, and believe it or not, I can sometimes. Saying that we had a 22 million offer on the table, but we were in discussion with somebody associated with a lot of the shopping malls, etc., out here in the Middle East, in discussions about shirt sponsorship at 25. If that's the deal they're talking about, that's huge. It's huge for this region, and it's huge for us in terms of exposure in the Gulf. And if it's the company,
while you're on about that, Mitch, can I just jump in, because I will forget. The Castorian, my mate's seen the new designs. There's another green shirt in there. He says the away strip is the same as the one we've got this season, the dark blue, like the dark blue kind of yellowy one, not much difference. There's a slight change to the colour on the home strip, but he also reckons the Castoria, we've got Castoria for a while yet, because of the deal done by the previous owner, and that the previous owner has definitely got an in with Castoria, and the deal to get out of that is not worth buying out. So Newcastle are just going to have to sit with it. But what you're saying about the shirt sponsor, I've got to be honest, we didn't have time to have a chat beforehand, but I've heard similar myself with regards to that.
Yeah, I think it's huge for the region and huge for us, if it's who I think it is. So that was a good discussion last night. The other thing we've got going on at the minute is ASM, going on to social media, seemingly producing images and videos that are contrary to what the manager's saying. What's going on, I don't know. I haven't been privy to certain conversations, but it disappoints me, because here we are talking flying high. We want him involved. We want him involved at the top level. We want him fit and ready to go. And yet there seems to be, why bother going on to social media to post something contrary to what the manager seems to be saying? So I don't know what's going on there. I don't know if Steve's heard anything. He might be able to elaborate a bit. So that's the other thing. On to Southampton. I've seen the best and the worst of them over the last couple of weeks. They were fantastic for 88 minutes against Arsenal, and then were horrendous against Bournemouth. And they seem to be the classic Forrest Gump's box of chocolates. You don't know what you're going to get until you open it up. I just hope we can open them up the way we've opened Tottenham and Everton up over the last week. They're certainly there for the taking. I suspect they're one of these teams that plays on confidence. If you can get on top of them early and bang something in early, the heads will go down and they'll dissolve like candy floss in a puddle. And so I think that's where we're going to go. I can't say anything other than a win personally, but I've got the dice, of course. And the dice says a penman.
Well, hey, 3-1.
Very good. Very
okay,
good.
Steve, what about you?
Right. Oh, dear. Where do you start with the Southampton? I mean, we've played them 3 times. It's the 4th time we've played them this season. The 2 League Cup games where we dominated. You're right, Mitch. They are Forrest Gump's box of chocolates. You don't know what you're getting. In reality, though, they're rock bottom in the league because they're rubbish. They're a club in crisis. They've been a club in crisis for quite a number of seasons now that's gone under the radar because people haven't talked about it. They haven't talked about the fact that, from the day that their Swiss owner, I think he was Swiss, died and left the club to his daughter, it seemed to suddenly become as though the club was just going to be picked apart gradually. I mean, I think there's something like £600 or £700 million worth of players that they've got rid of.
It was the former guy from Liebherr, wasn't it? The Liebherr group, the Koreans people. And I think the daughter's still on the board in some capacity. I think, does she still own 20%?
I think she owns a minority stake, yes. But I mean, the amount of, when you look at the players dotted around the Premier League that played for them, that have gone on to have amazing careers, and Spurs were held up. Southampton were held up as one of the clubs to look at from the way that they were managed and stuff like that. There's a few clubs dotted around the Premier League now where everybody's saying, "Oh, look at the way they were. Look at the way they were managed. Look at the way they were managed." And when we were doing badly, when we were struggling under Ashley, and nobody admit that Ashley was treating us badly, it was how well these other clubs were. We should be a model of consistency. Leicester City, model of consistency. Look at the way that the club developed. They won the league, they won the cup. They've got a training ground like you've never known. And then it was exactly the same as Southampton. But then you look at it and you go, yeah, but they're languishing at the bottom now. They're out their depth. They're there for the take. And Newcastle United, if we've got aspirations to be in the top three, then we put this team to the sword on Sunday. We certainly need to get the 3 points. We certainly will get the 3 points. But this Newcastle are on such a high, and they must be on such a low that it's not even a competition as far as I can see. I think that we can skittle these again, just like we have. I think we played patiently on Thursday night. We played on the front foot from the very start with the 12th man of the crowd that got themselves wound up and were ready. And I think it'll be exactly the same this week. I think the crowd will be the 12th man. Eddie asked for it last week. As you said, Steve, he didn't do a press conference. He just did a follow-on after yesterday's one that was stuff for the press to talk about. But I think they're there for an absolute hammering. I'm looking forward to it. But I think we're looking forward to every game Newcastle United play at the moment. Who will Eddie Howe go for? How will he shuffle the pack again? The only guarantee is that we know that ASM won't be part of the squad. I wonder whether he's going to be part of the team going forward. I suspect not. I don't think that he fits in. There's been so much being said about ASM this season, and so much that Eddie said about him, and he wants to get the best out of him. But as Mitch says, that video, putting up a video of yourself on your own Instagram page, of you on your own, with obviously your mate videoing you, doing what were basically short shuttle sprints that didn't even look. I mean, even the strides that he was taking, he wasn't stretching his hamstrings and stretching himself and running in the manner that you would expect. It looked stage managed. It looked like it was done after training, with nobody there, because he wanted to make a statement. And you're right, Mitch. I think that statement was against Eddie Howe, who had come out and said that he's not going to be around and may not even be available until we get round to playing Arsenal. I think it's bad practice. I think it's bad, especially when Eddie Howe was so good at letting him go over to France and getting treatment, taking somebody away. I understand he was dragged back in midweek. Whether that's true or not, only time will tell, and only the club really know. But my understanding was that he was dragged back kicking and screaming, which said to me that, the guy didn't want to be here, and now he's making a big fuss social media because he thinks the young fans will fall for it and are gullible. And I don't mean that lightly. I think we've got the makings of a really, really good squad. I think there's great camaraderie, and I think that the team's moving forward. And I'll be surprised if we saw ASM in a black and white shirt for the rest of the season.
Prediction?
5-1.
5-1. Prediction, George? Now, what's your views, George, and then your prediction?
Well, the only view I've got is about ASM, and that is the videos I've seen, probably the same ones that Steve did, is that if he's got the sort of injury that they're talking about, he's doing exactly what he shouldn't be doing. I mean, it's as simple as that. So, if he's not making a statement, that's what it looks like. That's what it comes across like, and that's sad. Especially, as the lads have said, he was allowed to go as a favour to go and do that, and he slaps them in the face by trying to make it look as though he's been singled out somehow. If you give somebody that sort of special treatment, they've got to be a very special player. Well, at the moment, all he's doing is he's a very special numpty at the moment, because he's not doing any of it. And that's not good for him, not good for Newcastle, not good for the fans. So, sadly, ASM, you're not going to take much part of the rest of the season, in my view. As to the Southampton thing, well, they'll just come and frustrate like they have the last 2 or 3 times we've played them. The difference is this time we seem to have made and developed a number of keys to open the locks this time. And I think they'll get a run around on Sunday. And I think it'll be 5-0 to us on Sunday. They've got nothing to frighten us with. Even the ones that do have something reasonable, like the Scots centre forward that they've got and played alongside. If Alan Armstrong plays alongside him, but against Spurs the other night, they were missing sitters. So there's nothing to fear there. So I think they'll just come and frustrate, and we'll just open the door and give them a hiding.
Okay, that's positive. It's a positive from everybody. A couple of things to finish on. Just had an argument with the manager of McDonald's. Bloke's a total clown.
Oh dear.
And I'm seeing Julie saying goodbye in the chat. I haven't forgotten. It's Retro Troll of the Week. The memories of 2019. Steve Wraith might just be the most irritating, brainless twat on this platform. Like,
how times have changed, Steve.
Mustn't have got what he wanted for Christmas. 29th of the 12th.
Sounds like a canny lad.
Sounds like a canny lad. Fantastic show, as always. I'm back live tomorrow at 11 o'clock in the morning with Ben Jacobs, and then I'm doing a pre-record with Mitch and with Stu for Sunday, so I can have a day off on Sunday for the match. Keith, you've got your hand up.
Can you shout me bet in? There's me bet. Look at all the winnings I've got on there. With Newcastle, Man United draw. At the minute, that's me bet at the bottom. Let's have a look. See there. £20 to win 820,000. And we cash out 180 quid at the minute. So
wow.
Shout me betting. And if I win, I'm going to get a Tina Turner wig, and I'm going to get Johnny Allen one as well.
Well, you sing Simply the Best at the end of season 2.
Me and Johnny Allen.
Classic.
The little white dog.
Have a good weekend, lads.
See you later.
Take care.
See you, lads.
All the best.
Yeah.
A big thanks to all our sponsors. Skips and Bins. Telephone 0800 25 45 25 3. Email inquiries at skipsandbins.com. Website skipsandbins.com. Easy contract free and pay as you go waste collection. Thanks also to Mr. Vicky's. Handmade in Cumbria. These sauces are really hot stuff. You can order them by emailing info@mrvickys.co.uk or by telephoning 01768 210 102. Thanks to Neil and the guys at Media Arts for all the help with the video side of things. And thanks to qtechshop.co.uk, the makers of pool tables and snooker tables in Wallsend, Newcastle, and the guys who run our website, nufcmatters.com. If you want to subscribe to the show, hit the subscribe button tonight. It is free. Hit the thumb up under the video to like the video and click share to share to your other social media. If you want to join the channel, hit join. There's 3 different tiers. Pick the one that suits you and help support the channel financially. If you want to pay a one-off membership fee of £25 and get these goodies, a scarf, a pen, a cup, and entry into the monthly draw, then go to NUFC Matters and look for membership pack. Failing that, get your smartphone and put it over the QR code and it will take you straight there. We're also a podcast and you can find us on iTunes, Spotify, Podbean, and other podcast providers. Usually goes up 24 hours after the show has finished. We also support the food bank on this channel. If you want to make a virtual donation today at the Matchday Bucket, go to nufcfansfoodbank.co.uk and you can make a deposit today. Don't forget to enter the Shearer raffle. There's 150 tickets, £1 per ticket, and you can win a limited edition signed Alan Shearer ball. Enter now at nufcmatters.com. If you have a look on our website, we've also got a vast range of mugs, t-shirts, cups, and whatever else takes your fancy. The Isaac t-shirt is proven popular this month, $16.99 plus delivery from nufcmatters.com. Don't forget as well, we do a range of events over the course of the year. We have Peter Beardsley, an up-close and personal evening at the Tynemouth Surf Cafe. Limited tickets remain. 25th of April. Get them now from Surf Cafe, tynemouth.co.uk or from ticketweb.uk. There's also an evening with Peter Beardsley on May the 19th at the Tyneside Irish Centre, and you can get tickets from newcastlelegends.com, and tickets are £50. Don't forget, our end of season do takes place 27th of May, 7 o'clock at the Tyneside Irish Centre. Tickets for that one are a tenner. NUFCmatters.com is where you can get your tickets for that. In June, Thursday the 1st of June to be precise, Rob Lee will be at Louis Liquor Store in the Big Market in Newcastle, and tickets for that are available direct from the venue. And an evening with Rob Lee, Lee Clark and John Beresford takes place the next evening on Friday the 2nd of June at the Grand Hotel in Gosforth. This is a charity event and tables are of £10, £700, and you can book them by contacting Natalie at heelandtoe.org.uk or visiting their website. In July, Gavin Peacock is in Newcastle on July the 10th at the Tyneside Irish Centre. Tickets for that are available from nufcmatters.com. And he also takes an evening with at the Surf Cafe in Tynemouth on the 11th of July. So get your tickets direct from the venue for that one as well. And if you're a boxing fan, the Night of Champions, Ricky Hatton, Frank Bruno, Nigel Benn and Joe Calzaghe takes place at the Fed, and that will be taking place on the 16th of June. More dates to be added. Tickets from all those events, www.goldstarpromotions.co.uk.